In this episode, I'll be showing you how to make this artist's wooden palette.
I'm Jessie. I've been a full-time artist for 10 years and thought it about time I start sharing my painting techniques and adventures. Subscribe to join me every week for a window into my art life.
So last week we looked at the history of the artist's wooden palette, and I decided in this episode that to make one would actually be really helpful. So I've modelled this one on some of the research we did on traditional palettes which artists such as Van Gogh, Picasso, Cézanne all used in their painting practice. And I think it's going to be really fun to make, so let's have a go.
I started by grabbing a piece of A4 paper and sketching in a rough S shape about halfway down one of the shorter sides. Then in line with the top of the S, I drew my thumbhole. I then cut out the template using a pair of scissors, which turned out to be pretty blunt. After rummaging around in my offcut box, I found this piece of 10mm plywood. You could easily use a thinner piece of wood. I'm just using this as it's what I have lying around in the studio. I then placed the stencil on top of my plywood and marked it out ready for cutting. Having secured the wood to my bench, I put on some snazzy safety glasses, tie up my hair and any loose ends, and cut along the lines using a jigsaw. I'd like to take the opportunity to say that I am not a DIY person, nor never have I been a DIY person, so this is the first time I've used a jigsaw, and it took me probably 10 times as long as it should take a normal person. Then for the thumbhole, I used a screwdriver to drill a few holes, quite a few holes, to then cut it out with a jigsaw. After a quick tea break, I used 80 grit and 120 grit sandpaper on a random orbital sander to smooth out the edges of the palette. I do this for a really long time.
Okay. Not bad. It's nice and smooth. It fits literally just to my elbow. It's really comfy to hold and to paint. Now I just need to sand the thumb hole so that's comfy as well, because at the moment it's sort of stabbing and uncomfortable, so we'll fix that right up.
I then rolled up some sanding pads and attacked the thumb hole. Back in the studio, I took some 2-part wood filler and filled in a couple of blemishes I'd noticed on the surface. And gave it a quick sand smooth. After dusting it off with a rag, I started coating the entire palette with linseed oil. I did around 5 coats over 2 days, which was enough to saturate the wood until no more oil would be absorbed. Linseed oil soaked rags have been known to self-combust, so please dispose of them carefully. After it had dried, I inspected it and was really pleased with the shine in comparison to the bottom, for which I'd only done 2 coats. Around about now, looking at my own palette, I realised that my little cups that I use to hold my oil while I'm painting would not fit on the 10mm ply. So I got Rafe to thin out the edge with a handsaw. Rafe is a very handy tool to have in the studio. So I'm just sanding the bit that Rafe's handsawed, and now it fits perfectly. The pots are looking great. So I'm going to start putting on the colours. We've got warm white yellow, genuine Naples yellow, genuine Chinese vermilion, manganese violet, Italian green umber, and cobalt blue. So I'm just going to test out the palette, mixing a couple of colours which I find useful at the moment with the painting I'm working on. I'm blending the Naples yellow, manganese violet, the cobalt blue with some warm white, and some genuine Chinese vermilion with some warm white as well. So we've got a great pink, blue and a burnished yellow palette to work with. I'm going to take this over to my painting and we'll see how it goes. And the palette's working really well. It's not absorbing any of the oils from the oil paint. The paints are sitting on the palette really beautifully, and it's a pleasure to paint with.
So thanks for watching. I hope you found the video interesting on how to make your own artist wooden palette. If you join us next week, I'm going to be showing you how to make your own paint storage rack for your studio. And until then, if you click the like button and the thumbs up button and the subscribe button, that would be great, and I will see you next week.